Exactly.
I think we need to find another platform besides Facebook, honestly, because Facebook's been doing this a lot lately, and we have full bars here, so it's got to be the Facebook platform. It keeps kicking us out, and it's infuriating.
I mean, Rocco could probably find some way to set up some sort of redundancy between hotspots or something, right? So that like if one fails,
no, but it's not the hotspot because I have you on full bars. Like I have you. It's Facebook. Facebook just keeps dumping the feed. I don't know why it does it. I'm gonna have to have a little conversation with Mr. Zuckerman.
Yeah, let's call Zuckerberg up. Get him on the phone right now, Rocco. Can you do that for me? There's some choice words.
I'll send him an email.
Yeah,
but
a strongly worded email.
Yeah, strongly worded Facebook Messenger post. All right, we seem to be stable now.
I got to talk to him about his hair first.
This pisses me off
then
too.
We can talk about the Freemasons.
Yeah, I agree, Spencer. Way too many Facebook issues, and it's Facebook. It's not us this time.
Well, we could do this on YouTube too.
We could. I may have to start going to YouTube, or do something along those lines.
Sure, we could research. There's probably a way to go live on there and then just have it like
notify via
Facebook and be like, hey, they're live on a different platform. But here, click here.
Yeah, it's something about Facebook. Every single freaking time that I do this with Facebook, it gets halfway through. Everything's going good. Levels are looking good. And it just dumps the fucking feed. It drives me insane. But anyway, back on what we were talking about.
Are we live now?
Yeah. We're live.
It looks like we have the...
Oh, I got rid of I dumped the background. I didn't know if maybe the XSplitter was causing an issue, but it shouldn't have. It's
Facebook.
It's Facebook. So anyway, back on what I was talking about. So we're talking about the Masonic elections and everything. And one of the things that we don't do is you can't go, especially as a master, you can't say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and we're going to do 5 degrees this year. We're going to bring in X amount of people, and we're going to lower dues, and because for the same reasons that politicians get into office in the U.S. government, and they make all these promises, and then they don't deliver. Why? Not because they're liars all the time, but because there's circumstances that just don't allow them to go through with what they said they were going to do.
And Masons don't make promises that they can't follow up with. So
absolutely,
like once you're elected president, you find out about the aliens, and then you.
I'm going to throw you out.
Shut it all down.
Ostensibly.
So,
I still haven't found out anything about aliens after having been master of the lodge.
So anyway, I think that campaigning is a bad thing too, because and especially in Freemasonry, because you're pitting one brother against another in a sense. That happens kind of to a degree. There's no way to really stop it in a sense. I mean, brothers have conversations after lodge, but to actively stand up, I think, in lodge and say, vote for me.
Announce your candidacy.
Announce your candidacy. You can announce to the brothers that I am willing to serve in whatever capacity the brothers wish. But realistically, the standing up there and say, vote for me, Worshipful Master 2020 is probably...
Yeah, making yourself available for a position. This is in lodges that don't have progressive lines. Making yourself available for a position if you're qualified and leaving it to the brethren to decide is one thing. I think that's very different than campaigning.
Right.
Which is, here are all the reasons why you should vote for me.
Right.
And you let your past experience speak for itself. Like the brother should be able to make that call.
I think also, to understand that even if your lodge has a progressive line, though, it's still not a guarantee. You could still be taken out of that. In other words, you could be jumped over. You could be like, for instance, a couple of Grand Lodges ago, we had a Grand Master came in and he wanted a whole set of different officers on the appointed chairs, and he wiped the whole ground floor with everybody. So yes, the Grand Lodge or the Grand Line is technically, quote unquote, a progressive line, but
it's still unofficial. It's traditionally
traditional.
A progressive line.
So
Grandmaster can change whatever he wants.
Right. So Ken, let's talk about how exactly the election process works in your lodge.
Okay. So generally, we have a progressive line in our lodge as well, and it's usually fully populated with qualified brethren. And the way it's worked, at least in the last 9 years that I can recall, is at our annual meeting. That's when, all the committee reports are read and everything. And that's also when elections are done. And that's the same way that Grand Lodge does it. This last Grand Lodge session that we just went to, same deal. Semi-annual meeting is committee reports and everything, close out the year, and vote on new officers. So traditionally, it's always been a brother moves up to the next chair.
Right.
Once in a while, there's one incident that I can remember where a brother that was going to, I believe, the senior warden's chair. I don't think it was master. I believe it was a senior warden's chair, was moving out of state. His career was taking him in a different direction. He wouldn't be able to be here physically in the future, especially in his master's year. So he chose to bow out. So like I said, usually it's a progressive line. Usually the next person, if the craft feels that they're eligible and responsible and can perform the duties of that next office, they'll be voted into the next office.
Right.
But again, it is always still up to the craft.
So how does the actual election balloting go in your lodge?
So the way that we normally do it is we have the master will appoint 2 or more tellers. He'll also appoint some brothers to collect the votes. It's usually done on pen and paper. Right, so we'll hand out pen and paper. This is very similar to what we do in Grand Lodge recently, where we had the little ballot sheets we took a photo of, and you have a space for each position. You write down the name, but there is no. I mean, you have a list of who all the current officers are, but there is no suggested name to put in the box.
Right.
It's blank. You make your own decision as a brother. All those get collected. The tellers, the lodges put at ease for committee reports or whatever, and the tellers go and count up all the votes. And then they report back to the master when they have results, whether it's an election or not.
Right.
I believe, oh God, I got to go back and look at my rules and regs. I believe it's a two-thirds majority for any elected officer position in a Blue Lodge in the state of Connecticut. Am I correct there?
Not 100% sure, because I think that depends on your bylaws.
Yeah, that
depends on what your bylaws.
Not a Connecticut rules and regs thing.
I don't think so. I could be wrong. I know that we had a split tie between me and Warshroll brother Ryan Nordstrom last year, where it was 9-9, and then it was 9-9.
That's tough.
And then it went 9-10. But I think it was 3 votes we went through until it was finally a simple majority crushed it.
So but, it's at least a simple majority, and
yeah,
we've never gotten that close in any of our votes, so I really don't know the exact number. But I know it doesn't have to be unanimous. And the tellers will report that they either have an election or they don't.
Right.
If it's a split or a tie or something like that, or we don't have a quorum, then that's different. But and then after that, usually the outgoing master will give each of the new officers an opportunity to say a couple words, or first and foremost to ask them if they accept, because that's important.
Of course,
because who knows whether they're actually willing to serve or not. And that's pretty much it. That's how the voting process is done. It's not a secret ballot like the actual initiation or the acceptance.
Semi-secretive.
Masons. We don't talk about it outside of lodge. You're not supposed to talk about it with your neighbor or look at what he's writing down or anything. But it's not. It doesn't have the same ultra secrecy and ceremony behind it that that a Masonic ballot does, or a ballot on a potential.
So what we did prior to me being secretary, we had a major league problem, because our lodge didn't have a progressive line, because at the time we didn't have enough. Rocco can attest for this. We didn't have enough brothers to fill the chairs. So we had people plugging chairs and trying to fill in gaps. So when it came time for election time and they passed out, what's going on, brother Danny Collins? When they passed out the paper, they give you a little scrap piece of paper and a pencil, and they give you a stack of scrap piece of paper and everything. And they just say, okay, vote for who's master. 2 things happened. One, again, we're not allowed to speak about who wants
Right.
to be, or at least that was what was told. You're not allowed to, campaign or voice what you want to be. But, we've kind of gotten to the understanding that, you're not allowed to politic in
Right.
Freemasonry. You can't vouch for a chair, but you can say, I would like to serve as master, and if elected, I'd be willing to serve.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
But there's no backdoor deals of,
Yeah, exactly.
you scratch my back, I scratch yours. None of that goes on. But they passed out these, Randy Boone, District Deputy Grandmasters run the elections in Rhode Island. No kidding. Wow.
That's a busy.
That's a busy district deputy.
Feel bad for those guys.
Right. Ken Tarwood joined. Did you join? Or
I did.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had the ghost in the machine like Joe.
No.
That was not a ghost crack, by the way. That was not a shot at your legs.
Okay.
Just
All
okay.
right, yeah, 'cause it's a little early for that.
Anyway, back on what I was saying. So it was confusion. Like nobody knew who to vote for,
Mhm.
and then people were getting pissed off because,
Yeah. And that sucks too, right? Like,
Right.
That's disharmony.
Right. And then the other half of it is you don't see brothers, at least not so much anymore, but you don't see brothers all year long. They don't show up. Sure as shit, annual communication, they're there.
Mhm.
And now they have no idea who's
Yeah.
up and who's interested. So they just start throwing names in the hat, and it turned into absolute freaking chaos. So I said, the minute I become secretary, that's one thing I'm doing is I'm straightening this shit show out quick. So what I did was I took one, same as you, out of the Grand Lodge of Connecticut's, the trifold
Yeah.
pamphlet.
Yep.
And they actually have for each section, it'll be like worshipful master, senior warden, junior warden, secretary,
But it's
treasurer.
the current positions.
No. I'm saying,
Oh,
you know,
no.
remember on the right side of the folder?
Yeah.
Remember where you have to tear off
yeah,
the little labels?
Yep.
That's exactly what I do every single year. So
Okay.
that you pull off one little tearaway, write the name on it, throw it in the hat,
Yep.
and you go one at a time, write down the tearaways rather than
Okay.
writing it on pieces of paper. And then you got to worry about, and each of those little tabs says worshipful
What the
master,
position is. Yeah.
senior warden,
Yep.
junior warden, so that you don't get the cross contamination of blank pieces of paper and extra names
Yeah.
are thrown in. You don't, this isn't Russian collusion. We're not having election meddling, but
Nope.
you get what I'm saying though, to cut down the confusion.
We don't have voting machines or anything in Masonic lodges. But
Right.
do you guys list your current officers?
We list our
on the other
current
side?
officers.
See, that I think is.
But what I
Good
also
idea.
do as a little insert to the thing is when people come up to me, I tell them, if you're interested in a chair or you want to move up to something, let me know.
Mhm.
So then what I do is for those that are eligible
You can say
for the
eligible
chair,
to serve.
I will write
Yeah.
eligible and willing or
Yeah.
eligible and interested.
Yeah.
And then, and that goes for worshipful master, eligible and interested.
Mm-hmm.
And then senior warden, interested, because you don't need to be eligible. Oh, well, yes, you do need to be eligible because
It's a voted. Yeah, you do need to be eligible to be a warden.
we actually had this
Yeah.
discussion the other day. You don't need to be eligible. You could be
There's
the
nothing,
only person there needs to be a past warden is a master. Other than that, anybody could be
Yes.
elected to any of those chairs.
Yeah, but you'd also want like the brethren have to know whether or not. I mean, that person has to take over for the senior warden if the senior
Right.
warden's absent, or the master if both
Right,
of them
right.
are absent. So there
Right.
is it's like a soft requirement.
It's a
I
soft
guess,
requirement,
because,
yeah.
You don't have to take a test or anything.
Right. So basically what I'll do is I'll put either senior warden, eligible and willing, and then
Mhm.
just side brother interested, or just everybody who's interested in that thing. So now when you open up the
That's a good
pamphlet,
idea.
when you open up the pamphlet, you say, okay, who am I going to vote for senior warden? Oh, well, this person, that person, this person, that person expressed interest in it.
Mhm.
And then, of course, you use your own mind.
And then it's up
If
to
your
the brother.
lodge has a progressive line,
Yep.
naturally, the guy who's the junior warden would move to senior
Yep.
warden. If he's,
If everybody feels
if
that
everybody
he's,
feels
yeah,
that
able
he's
to serve in
capable
that
and willing.
capacity. Yeah.
I
I kind of like that idea.
Does it happen all the time? No. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. It's beyond the control, but realistically, it could happen anywhere on the floor, including the master.
Mhm.
You could be just, going. Again, it also happens when you have a position that, what was it? A couple of years ago, we had a brother. He was a senior warden, right? You know who I'm talking about, right? Bald guy?
Yeah.
Okay. He ended up bowing out of the lodge or disappearing and not coming back or whatever. So we had a void to fill. So then now you had a plethora of past masters trying to. I think it wasn't a plethora. I think it was only me and another. I think it was me and De Blasi. I think we wanted that gap to slow the line down rather than taking the junior warden and firing him all the way up to the master's chair, which is a bad move in a lodge, if you ask me.
It's not a good idea.
As a junior warden, you're just getting tipsy. You're just getting your feet wet in the water.
Yeah, and you haven't made plans for your masters here yet. I don't think it's fair to do that to somebody.
Guess who would happen?
Yeah, well, unless it's unavoidable.
Unless it's unavoidable, but it's just a bad practice. So, but that's what I did in Morningstar Lodge, and now you had your current officers in the middle, right? On the left side, I put the order of business, which was, this happens, that happens, this happens. Report, elections. And then middle, obviously, was the current officers for 2018 at the time, 19 now it's going to be. And then the right-hand side, you had all your tearaways. Now, I always made sure that I had extra bottom ones in case. You know what I mean? Like I would perforate extra empty ballot ones.
Which is another thing that the Grand Lodge does.
Yes.
They do these things for a reason. They're pretty smart.
And I do that with trustees. I do that with anything. And again, even with trustees, I'll put down interested, and on the trustees, I'll also put, term ending. Yep. Term ending. And
I think trustees are the most important because nobody knows who's willing and,
right. Exactly.
really willing to serve as a trustee. Nobody knows that. Unless they themselves are willing to serve as a trustee.
Correct. So that's pretty much how we did it in our lodge as well. And again, right after they tear away, they throw them in the hat, 3 tellers, same thing. You have 3 guys, they triple check each other to count the count. And then I've seen lodges do it 3 different ways. I've seen our lodge counts all the votes. In other words, Ken got 10 votes for master. Rocco got 8 votes for master. Or George got 1 vote for master. And then there was, because we get people who write like freaking doctors, and you can't have them like one what do they call it?
Unreadable.
Unreadable, yeah.
Unintelligible.
Yeah. If that happens, but some lodges don't do that. They just simply, this guy won.
Yeah, I mean, if we have an election, I'm trying to remember how we did it last year. If we have an election, then I think we just say the name of who the election is. We don't go through all the numbers.
I personally, and this is just my personal feeling, I like when everybody's name's read, because let's say there's a brother who's he's a senior deacon, he's busting his ass, whatever, and Ken Tarwood got 10 votes, George got 5 votes, and then brother so-and-so got 1 vote.
Yeah.
Whoa, I got a vote? Like, it kind of buoys him up. Like, oh, wow, I got a vote for the master? Like, wow, that's, I always seen it as a positive. Just to know that you got a vote. I mean, look at Joe. He was ecstatic over getting, 10 votes for trustee at Grand Lodge?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it started off as a joke, but there was a turning point where I was kind of hoping he got his name called. I was kind of hoping that, he got the...
I was one off from. No,
but you get what I'm saying, though.
Yeah,
like,
I hear you.
I was one off from master in 1 election.
Really?
Right? Yeah. It's
Yeah, it happens.
But even if you get your name called, like even if there's not a snowball's chance in hell I'm going to win, you get your name called, especially at a Grand Lodge level. Joe would have been like, I got my name called. Like, it boosts your confidence a little bit,
I could see it going both ways, though. I could feel somebody that, really, really
going on links
was eligible, and maybe they're in a progressive line or something, and they're like, oh, I know I've got master. I know I'm eligible. I know the brethren are going to vote for me, and they end up getting like 2 votes or something. Like, I could see it being the exact opposite.
Right.
Not that maybe it's an edge case, but hearing that you only got 1 or 2 votes is not always a positive thing.
True. I guess I'm more of the I'd want to know than not know.
Yeah.
I guess even if I only got 2 votes, I could sit there. I'm the type I would sit back and be like, well, at least I got 2 votes. Whereas, so Ken won the worshipful master. I'm going to be driving home going, I wonder how close I was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just me, though. I'll be like, damn, did I only lose by a vote? Did I
Yeah,
write
could
the
see
name
that.
wrong on the ballot sheet?
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly. Did I
It's like
not?
a pass or fail grade, and you need to know the
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, you failed. Well, did I fail by a point or did I fail by 30 points? You know, I guess that's just me anyway. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pay attention this year when we do it and see exactly how we. I mean,
I
would
done.
advocate for everybody's name
Full
being read.
read.
Anybody who gets the votes,
Right.
should have their
Again.
name read.
There's some brothers who just sit in their chair and squirm.
With
While
that
they're
also being
waiting.
said, with that also being said, there's nothing more that pisses me off being a lodge member and hearing all those names read and somebody screwing around and putting like a dumb name in there.
Mickey Mouse.
Like
Wow.
somebody who hasn't been in lodge in 30 years, they want to put their name in, or somebody basically making a mockery of the political system
Yeah,
or the, I don't want to say
It's
political,
not.
the election system in
Yeah.
lodge.
The abstainer.
That's the abstainer.
yeah.
I mean, realistically, you're a member of the lodge, vote.
Mhm.
That's my opinion. I know you're allowed to abstain and not really vote. It is in the rules and regs. You're allowed to abstain, but why would you? It's your own lodge. Have an opinion. Like this
Little
is your
daggers
home.
fly across the room once you abstain. It just happens.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
How you feeling?
It is your right to do that. I mean, I'm looking at it from both ways. I mean, up until I've really thought about it, I've been a big like you're in lodge, vote.
Right.
Don't throw your vote away. But
Right.
I mean, you do have the right to abstain if there are no brothers that you feel are eligible and willing to serve. Then that would be a perfectly legitimate reason to.
It's like making
abstain.
a statement without making a statement, though.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, maybe you have to vote. You have to vote your conscience.
All right. Now let's
Freemasonry,
compare this
right?
to the American elections for our country.
Mhm.
We always tell everybody, get out there and vote, get out there and vote, get out there and vote. And how many people
Mhm.
don't go vote? Because they're like, why bother? My vote doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Or how many
Get
that
out
do
there
go
and
and
vote.
vote are completely uninformed.
Unless you're
They're
voting
just
for Bernie
throwing-
Sanders.
But I mean, if you're an active, okay, so if you're
Don't go there.
if you're 30 years out of the lodge and you haven't been to lodge in 30, 20, 10, 5 years, you have no idea of the, for instance, I look at like our older brothers that would show up now. They wouldn't recognize half of the members of our lodge because they haven't been to lodge.
You know,
So how are you
come
going to
out-
come in?
come
and-
out to a dinner or a table lodge or something prior to the
if you
the
wanna
actual vote and learn about who these guys are.
Right. Or you know what? You want to come to just annual and sit down? That's fine. Don't vote.
Yeah.
Or if it's a progressive line, okay, vote for the progressive line. You know,
I think that's a great intention. It's just
Yeah.
in practice, I haven't seen it. What I've seen is the person that abstained. It's kind of like a. I'm gonna
Which
make
is
a shit,
which
you
is
know?
not what it should be.
but it's
about.
not. That's unmasonic, if you ask me. That's unmasonic in my eyes. If you're just gonna,
You
well,
shouldn't-
I'm not gonna vote to stick it to them. You're being unmasonic.
Yeah.
If you want to stand up, voice your opinion in the lodge about disdain for something in the lodge, and do it, properly and respectfully. And then if you get gabbled down or told to sit down, or you just finish what you got to say and then sit down,
And you do
at least it was
yeah.
Masonic about it. But when you sit there as the, grumpy pastor, I'm not voting this shit. Like,
Or if you abstain,
It's
like I said,
unmasonic.
it is a legitimate reason to abstain if you don't feel that anybody's qualified. It doesn't have to be
Okay.
like, oh, I'm going to stick it to this guy who's
Right.
the
If you
progressive
think-
line next one to be master.
Right.
If you don't think these guys are qualified, you have to, as a Mason, vote your conscience. And
Right.
They could be to
or
not
write
vote
your
for
own
you.
damn name in. If you think you're good enough
If
that
you-
those guys aren't
well-
qualified, put your own name in.
Yeah. Or, I mean, maybe I don't feel that I'm qualified, but I don't feel that any of these guys are qualified either. It
All
can
right.
happen. It can happen. And I think that's a Masonic way of dealing with it, is to say, I can't in good conscience
Right.
vote.
I do
I
understand.
think
what
it's
you're
an edge
saying.
case. I think we're picking, nits here because
No,
I don't think it
I-
ever
Hey,
happens,
it's a
but-
discussion though, and
Yeah.
listen, other lodges
It can
maybe
happen,
that are
yeah.
listening to this, or brothers maybe going through the same thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with we're
Yep.
picking things apart, but I always would say this though: if you've got round number 20 guys in a lodge,
Yep.
somebody in there is got to be qualified because somebody's got to run the ship. So if you don't think anybody in there is capable
Then you should.
of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's
You get
a
what
good
I'm
point,
saying
yeah.
though? Like if you don't think anybody in that lodge is capable, somebody's got to be
It's-
capable to keep the ship,
Well,
on.
so here's what happens based on the rules and regs of the state of Connecticut.
Mhm.
If nobody gets enough votes to become master, guess who gets to remain master for the
wow.
subsequent year?
The current
So
master.
until your
And actually,
successor is elected or you die, you are master of that lodge in the state of
and
Connecticut.
that's what
That's interesting.
Brother Bill Powell just said in New Jersey. The master has to stay master until qualified person can take over. Absolutely
Yep.
true. And that's even in Connecticut too.
Yep.
One of the things that we do when I do the installation ceremony for officers, I've been asked for, I think, quite a long time now. I think everybody's been asking me, and Perry actually asked me if he is elected as master. He'd ask if I would be his installing master, and I'm honored to do that anytime I mast. I love doing it. It's an honor to me. It's a privilege to be an installing master for any of the brothers
It's a
that
fun
ask me to do.
ceremony too.
Yeah,
But
but
ritual.
one of the things during that ceremony is you are handed the charter and you are told that you are the master until your successor is duly installed in your place.
Yep.
So you're stuck there.
Yep.
You know, but if you think that there's nobody qualified to take over for him as master, you know, there's got to be somebody in there. Maybe it's you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with throwing your own name in the hat. I think a lot of Masons are afraid to do that. They really, I don't want to write my own name. No, throw your name in the hat.
Well, I mean, for master, you have to have gone through the past master degree, I think. And
Okay.
Connecticut at
Well, let's
least,
talk
but
about
that's-
this.
Yeah.
In the state of
I think that's the
Connecticut,
only requirement, right?
perfect. Perfect. You are to be a past warden. That is one of the requirements.
Past warden, right?
Have to be a past warden in order to become, at least in the state of Connecticut.
Yep.
And then after that, before you are installed as master, you have to take the actual past master degree in the state of Connecticut. But Rocco's been a past warden.
Mhm.
So in December, if everybody votes him to be master, he could technically become master.
He could take the actual past master degree before taking office. Yeah.
You have to.
Yep.
Before you can be installed, you have to take
Yeah.
the actual past master degree.
Yep.
But that's his only requirement. But he's a past warden. Elwin, he's another perfect example. He was a past
Yeah.
junior warden. Elwin, he's taking his 50-year pin this year.
Yep.
Whoop whoop.
That's awesome.
But he's
He
a
may have
past
sat in
warden.
every seat except for master.
He's a past warden. If the entire lodge votes him to be master,
Then he's
he could be the
master.
master. There's nothing stopping that.
So there used to be a requirement in the state of Connecticut that you had to go through the master's path.
Oh,
I think we talked about this.
We
in
did
a
talk about
previous
that
podcast.
whole freaking galloping shit show.
I did it. I'm not so sure that I needed to, but I did it. And they still have people that like grade the test and everything and tell you whether you passed or failed.
I will say
I
this,
guess
though.
it's not a strict requirement.
It's not a strict requirement. It's not even a requirement at all. But I'll tell you this much. I will say this.
You learn some
You
stuff.
learn a lot. So anybody who's a Connecticut Mason, listen to this. Even if you're not the master, warden, whatever.
Yep.
Take the damn test because you learn a lot. It's taken more for an educational thing. And even when you pass it, I think they send you a nice certificate, right?
I didn't
They
get
still
a
do that?
certificate when I passed.
They don't do that no more.
don't
Oh,
think so.
when I took the test, I took the one that I took way back in the day, 2011. They used to send you a nice certificate. I'll have to bring them in and show you.
Yeah,
They send you a nice
I might have-
certificate. It
I might have
says,
gotten an email. I
They
might have
lost
gotten
the potential
actually like a
right there.
letter or
No
something.
cert?
but you know what, though? I think they
Yeah.
should send you a little.
Right.
I think they should send you a little certificate and stuff
Yeah,
like
because
that.
you took the time to
You
do
took
it.
the time to do it. It makes you feel good. Who doesn't like getting recognized for the
Yeah.
stuff they do?
I think the more important aspect of it is you really learn where to go to find the answers, and I think that's the most important lesson
Right.
as master. Is
That too,
know
yep.
where to go to find the answers. Don't
We
have to
just
rely
go
on the
to George.
secretary.
No,
don't rely.
That poses a problem.
Don't rely on the past masters. Don't rely on the
No, I'm
secretary
joking.
because sometimes that crap's going to fall on your lap when you're sitting there up in the east and everybody's
Mhm.
looking at you.
But
You
I
at
George
was-
least
decides to
gotta
take
know
a
where
nice
to go.
Masonic vacation,
Yeah,
take a Masonic
exactly.
night
It
off,
can happen.
and
that's
shit
been
hits the
history.
fan.
That's been the history.
Yeah.
is go to George.
It's on you as the master,
And that's
That
why
is your
George is bowing out of a
responsibility.
lot of things because, and I've said it before, that is a crutch because now Ken doesn't have to learn it. You don't got to learn it. The next guy don't got to learn it because we'll just go to him and ask him the questions. No, take the test, learn it for your damn self. It's smart.
That's why he's bounty 100 degrees.
That's why I'm buying 100 degrees. Bill Powell, brother Bill Powell. New Jersey has the Society of King Solomon, somewhat of a lodge of education. Interesting. Tests your knowledge on the 3 degrees: shock collar fire,
Nice. Yeah. If you can get some of those questions.
If you can
for
get some of
us,
those questions, I'll definitely get my ass whacked. I don't care. Ken too. He loves it.
sure.
The Grand Lodge Constitution and Laws and Masonic Etiquette. Great information. If CT has info test, definitely take it. Learn so much. Yes, we do have info. We have tests. It's like a search and find. Realistically, the state of Connecticut one. They'll ask you some outrageous, crazy question. What section of the rules and regs states that? And you're like, shit! I gotta go through the whole book. And
but it's good.
But you know what, though?
To know where those things are, man.
To know where it is, and on top of that, while you're thumbing through that book looking for that thing, you're reading other stuff. Mm-hmm. So now you get to the next question. It says, what section talks about this? You're like, oh, I seen that.
Yep.
And you go back and there it is. So yeah, it's
you always find something that's really interesting. Like, oh crap, I always wondered what would happen if this happened. Right. You're learning as you're going through it.
I will say that in my opinion, there's two people that need to know rules and regs, constitutions, laws, Masonic, not so much Masonic etiquette. I think all Masons should know that, but the Masonic law. And rules and regs and the constitutions, as well as your lodge bylaws. Two people in the lodge that definitely need to know that, and a third needs to start working on it.
Master and secretary.
Master and secretary need to know it front to back. I have the book in my desk. Most of it I have not committed to memory, but if you ask me a question, I can find the section for you. I know how to run a Masonic trial if there's ever a trial.
But the wardens definitely need to get up to speed on those.
When you hit that junior warden's chair, you better start thumbing through that damn book.
Because guess who has to run a Masonic trial if something happens during refreshment?
Yeah,
junior warden.
Junior warden. So
it's not just having 2 lines and a degree, guys.
And everybody who sits there, and I don't say everybody, because there's some wardens and masters that they skate through the year and their lodge is great and everything works fine.
And it's awesome if nothing happens. That's good.
But when you sit back and you say, we're good, that ain't gonna happen to me.
That's when it always happens to you. Ask
Worshipful Master Ryan Nordstrom. He got thrown a knuckleball midway through the season. Really? He's like, oh shit, we're gonna have to do this. It ended up the situation came to pass, and it was right there. Like, it was right at the knocking on the doorstep. Like, this is gonna go down.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many things actually happen to masters that you don't actually see until you're sitting in that chair. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on about the lodge that, because you're the master, you take care of it. There's nobody else's, and that's a sign of a good master, that things get taken care of and it never becomes a big issue. But man, there's a lot of stuff that goes down.
I know we're getting off elections, but we'll wrap this part up in a minute. But James Rafferty, you're not really making me want that seat. I'll tell you what, though, Raff,
it's a lot of work.
It's really not.
Secretary?
Not really.
Well, I mean, if you're a very organized person, I would imagine
it's not anymore. Not with Grandview. There's no sending in monthlies anymore. You literally, when you get an EA petition in, you go to Grandview, punches information in. Grand Lodge has it. There's no more monthlies. There's no more paperwork. There's no nothing. Everything's done off the computer now.
The only thing and all that, your check runs that you do.
Mostly the treasurer does that. The only thing I need to do is write down vouchers. The money that I get.
Yeah.
And then when he gives me the voucher, I just check the voucher.
Yeah.
And when I check the voucher, it means to me, all right, that matches my book.
Right.
I know that one's checked. So other than that, it's pretty easily. And then writing the minutes. And you don't have to get elaborate. I've seen some secretaries, they write a freaking Stephen King novel of secretary minutes. You don't need to do that. It's basically, this would happen, that's what happened, this would happen, this was talked about, boom, close the lodge.
You got to run the communications for the lodge too, right? You guys do it that way in your lodge. So if the master has something he wants to send out to the craft, he forwards it to the secretary blasts it out to the craft.
Realistically, a lot of that stuff kind of came to pass when we started using the GroupMe app.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you right now, the only letters that I send snail mail anymore,
or email, right?
I really don't do email.
Really? So the master sends that kind of stuff out, or you guys?
We do it all. Everything happens through GroupMe. It's the best thing ever because now you don't have to.
If you have a smartphone.
And if not, that's why I send out the snail mail because now I know you're getting an actual hard copy, whatever I do. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back into the election process. So after you're elected, again, as Ked said, you have to be, accept the position.
Mhm.
And if that particular person, and this is another good reason to read more than just the guy who won, because what we do in our lodge is if Rocco gets junior warden with 10 votes and you get junior warden, or you don't get junior, but you were runner up with 8 votes,
Mhm.
let's just say, and
And
he
Rocco's
refuses
just
it,
It goes to
the next guy in
person.
line.
Yep. Good
So,
call.
and then you can accept it.
Yep.
Or deny it, and then it would go to number 3. And if there
Yeah.
is no, now you revote it.
Yep.
But it makes life easier rather than, who had the next amount? Oh, I don't know. It just, let's revote again.
Yeah.
Bad move.
Yeah. Fair point.
So that's why we do it that way with reading aloud, because now everybody can say, oh no, Ken had the next most.
And now, after that, you are not in that position until something very important happens.
What do you mean?
The installation of officers.
Right.
I was trying to segue. Apparently, I
lost me on the Iran. What are you trying to?
No, I thought you were like done with the whole election process, and I was going to say then you're not actually in the position until the installation takes place. And here's what a Masonic installation is. See, I was trying to have a flow.
No, I'm on to you now. No, that wasn't you. That was my crash and burn, not yours. Well, let's talk about the in-between time. So I'll give you an example. We have our annual communication on the 14th of December.
Mhm.
Okay. Our installation doesn't happen till the first Saturday of January.
Mhm.
But we have another meeting in between there. So now you have realistically one meeting that's still in the hands of the 2019 master, because his successor hasn't been
Yeah,
installed.
that's fine.
But now what we have is a master elect. So how does your lodge do with the master and the master elect? Do they work in tandem? Do they work together? Do they start working on a changing of the guard? How does it work with you guys?
Well,
Because,
yeah.
and I'll give you the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when I became master, again, I'm using me as an example, not because Joe is a douche and thinks that I'm making it all about me. I'm
because
talking about past events.
You remember your own experience,
Right.
so it kind of makes sense to.
No,
once
but
in a while
there's
have-
nobody up here to bounce the other idea off of. But the reason why I'm saying is because when I was elected as master, I'm like, all right, let's go get the master. Let's go talk to him. He's like,
Bye.
here's the keys. See you next year.
Wow.
And nobody taught me. He handed me a piece of paper that was basically, here's a blue form. That's the order of business. This is all you got. This is how you run a meeting.
Wow.
Good luck, kid. And out the door he went.
That's unfortunate.
So I'm
been-
wondering, like, how in other lodges, and we do it much differently now. Normally, right now, I usually sit down with whoever the master elect is, and I say, listen, let's talk. Here's your officers.
Yep.
This is the committees you got to set up. This is what you got to do. And I kind of give them that understanding. But how does it happen in yours?
So the way that we operate is usually the incoming master will have a sit-down conference with the secretary, who our secretary. He's also a district deputy.
Marty.
Yep. So the incoming master will usually have a sit-down with him. What most of us like to do is, as an outgoing master, they sit down with the incoming master and kind of go over nuance of the chair that he may not have spoken about with the secretary. I mean, we all kind of like have things that worked in our year and things that didn't work in our year, and you kind of go over that with the incoming master and say, hey, not to influence his plans or anything, but here's a list of how everything went over the course of the year, and you can take it for what it's worth, use it as reference material. I was blessed when I took the chair that Hal Elwell was the outgoing worshipful master. And he sat down with me and gave me his whole template for his calendar for the year. And
That's awesome.
he started using an agenda, which is a genius move. I don't know why. I think all the masters just kind of kept it in their head for the order of business and everything, but he would actually put it down. And he'd be like, if there's any new events or something like that, you put it all in one place. And that way if, there's a big discussion that's going on, you don't lose your place as the master, and you make copies of it and you give it to all your wardens and your secretary. So that was a big thing that I picked up from him.
Yep.
But that's usually how we do it. I mean, we start planning our years usually toward the end of the junior warden year.
Right.
Certainly during the senior warden year, you're working on your calendar for the oncoming year.
Yeah, you should plan for you to become master. Don't get caught with your pants down around by your ankles.
Yep.
And you get to that master's chair, let me tell you, it hits fast.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no lull time. The only thing that we do after our installation is we have our annual dinner, which is kind of like welcoming the new masters, his lady and all that stuff. And, the lodge gets together, we have our dinner, and but from there on in, it's hammer time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. After the installation of officers, like you're in the chair and you're expected to do
and understand when you hit that chair, it's a 24/7 job.
Well,
you're gonna get fun. Well, I mean, it's not like you're the freaking president or anything, but realistically, I mean, you and your year. This is your year as master.
Yeah, I'll get calls late at night every once in a while. I mean, it's not like I don't think it's like being the president, but it's definitely like being
you need to put
the
a fire
CEO of an organization, and you're pretty much always on call.
And you're putting fires out.
Yep.
I mean, and there are fires. They may be small, maybe large, maybe multiple fires, but you're always putting something out.
Yep.
And the best thing that a master or even the wardens to an extent need to have communication with their treasurer and their secretary constantly. And as well as masters and wardens should get together. I mean, you are I never thought of running the lodge as like a dictatorship as a master. You should try to include your wardens in as much as you want to accomplish.
You're there to serve
possible.
the craft. Your job is to serve the craft.
I think it's very important to have a sounding board too as a master too.
Yeah.
So the master has unusual powers. He runs the damn show. It's
lonely to be able to have to do that all the time too. If you don't have a past master to bounce those kinds of ideas or questions off of, I mean, even if you know where to go to get the answers, if it's some like official policy or something, every once in a while it helps to have somebody else to talk to.
Well, also understand that masters are human too, and we make mistakes. Totally some people, not all, I don't know, I'm not stupid, but sometimes there is a little bit of a power ego that happens with certain masters. They get to that chair and they think, they blow up their shoulders, they broaden their chest, and they think that they're the shit. I'm the master. Everything's going to happen through me. Well, no, because your lodge can shoot you down.
You talking about me?
No. I'm just saying in general.
Because they keep looking at me.
No.
Just kidding.
Conversation. Man, I could look at the camera, but that's even creepy.
I try to do that, and then I just catch.
I can't.
I'll catch his eyes when he's over there behind the camera.
What was the freaking movie with Johnny Number 5?
Short Circuit.
Short Circuit. I thought it was Short Circuit.
Great movie.
Because I was thinking batteries not included as well. But right, look at the camera. Does it not look kind of like?
It does kind of look like a little Terminator drone.
But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is going to segue into the second half of this, and we're going to be talking about the Masonic Party, if there ever was one, and we're going to be talking about the conspiracy theorist whole thing of NWO, and we're going to basically talk theoretically what it would be like if Masons ran the show. Bill Powell, our worship masters collaborate during our advanced stations starting in September. It's awesome.
Yeah,
we have a written agenda for each meeting that they may as well be engraved on the podium in the East. Good.
Nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks to the podcast, this is the first year of our new programs, so we'll see how it translates to next year. Awesome. That's great.
That's
and yeah, we're actually what is it, next Sunday? This coming Sunday. We're having the guy from the CT chip program come up, right? Yep. And you're going to learn about that program. It's a child identification program.
We've done that. We've participated in that.
You were part of one. I was part of one.
I was part of 3.
I think it's something that's kind of unique to our jurisdiction too. I'm sure there's probably one or two others in the U.S. that have something similar, but it would be good to talk about that.
Right, exactly. So the reason why I'm bringing this up in the powers of a master and how they are unusual and extremely powerful, and the master can gun down anything he wants. He can talk about whatever he wants.
Mhm.
He can do basically, it could be an authoritarianism, basically.
If
What-
we weren't Masons, and if
we
didn't
weren't
behave
Masons,
as
right?
Masons,
You,
yep.
you
Yep.
follow what I'm. You
Yeah,
see what I'm.
I smell
Okay,
what
all
you're
right.
stepping
But it's good to have a sounding board of having two other wardens be like,
Yep.
George,
Yeah, what do you guys think about this?
George, you're acting like a dick. All right.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so
But on the other hand, we can't agree on what type of coffee to get.
Yeah.
I had two good wardens in my year. I had Worship Brother Earl, and you guys met him.
Mhm.
He's a very even keeled guy. Tom was. So I had two angels. I had an angel and a demon. You know what I mean? Not that Tom was a demon, but Earl's kind of like, George, just what if I call him Ben Stein. He sounds like Ben Stein. So I always made fun of him.
A
Well,
little bit.
Yeah.
I
But
see it. But he's very even keeled.
very even keeled, very mellow. Whereas me, I'm freaking hot tempered and fly off the handle.
Yeah.
Earl's like, calm down, little guy. Like
Yeah.
he'll level me out. Tom was more of the yes men, or so when I needed some positive reinforcement, Tom was there.
Mhm.
Earl was the leveler, Tom's the positive reinforcement.
Mhm.
So it worked out well for me. And I remember going to the Nautical Lodge to meet the district deputy when I was the master to discuss issues that were going on in the lodge. And I always kept at least the top three near me. Understand,
Mhm.
I really didn't have a lower office at the time. I had just my
Mhm.
three guys that were backing me, and the rest of the lodge was.
Well, even we have a strong brothers in every officer's chair in my lodge, but the master and the wardens always seem to make all the big decisions, not necessarily collectively, like the master has the final say.
Right.
But for anything big that's going on, I sit down with my wardens.
Mm.
I'll talk with my wardens about it. The wardens are in the email trail or whatever.
Right.
It's not. If you're making all the decisions unilaterally, man, like it's a little bit too close to a dictatorship.
Right. Yeah. No, it really
because
is.
we can, we can be wrong. We can forget to think about things from a different angle, and it's
right. So with that being said, let's take a break. We'll take a break, and then we're going to tackle the other half of this, and we'll get into the Masonic,
the difficult part of this,
the difficult parts of this, and it's gonna be all right though. We're gonna get through it, and but we're gonna touch on something that the conspiracy theorists love to throw around.
You get all the comments lined up from the
Freemasons and New World Order stuff. Comments lined up from the what?
From the
poll?
Yeah,
there was only a couple, but I will read them aloud. And there was a couple pros, couple cons, which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with it. Both are valid points. But we're going to explore this. We're going to run down this rabbit hole. So we'll be back.
Help us.
Don't be afraid.
I'll be fine. This is fine.
Stick with us. Start firing your questions. Start firing your statements. Get ready, because this one's good. We're going to buckle up for this one.
We just got one additional like. We were at 797. We are now at 798. So Mr. or Mrs. 800 is right around the corner here.
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the proper 12.
Yeah.
Tastes like proper shit. It tastes like this.
Doesn't feel like anybody's asking me to sing, so I'm not going to.
All right. Say bye to the camera, Rocco.
Say bye, Rocco. Oh, my back.
Goodbye. Me and Jesus are headed out.
Walk into a meeting? Probably.
Yeah.
Somebody's going
to Jesus.
Yeah. Or there's going to be much anger.
Nah.
Rancor. Facebook page.
No, because he already broke that seal with "You all need Jesus."
Broke what?
No, that's different.
You.
What'd I break? I don't break things.
I said you broke the seal because you said girl.
Because I had my Y'all Name Jesus shirt on.
kicked out of the bar.
Is it traffic
Yeah.
from the bar? Because that's what it sounds
It's the
like.
bar downstairs.
Yep.
All right, good night.
Good night, so
Bye,
thanks for
Rocco.
bringing that book back, or that book over. It was cool.
I know. I
I
wanted
dig it,
to.
man.
It's really nice. I like this one.
It's old, bro.
Yeah, I'm positive she's got
Say
a
hit
lot more stuff. Her house is from the 1600s.
Really?
That's why.
There's probably a lot older crap up in
Yeah, exactly.
there. Wow.
Jesus. It's a messy night down at Jimmy's today.
Yeah, getting smashed on a Monday. That's pretty impressive.
Jesus.
Way to go. You're doing well for yourself there, sir.
That's Truman Show right there, starting at the camera.
What?
That's what Bill Powell wrote.
I don't see that on there.
Yeah, it popped up on my phone, but it didn't. It's a pretty cool background. Too bad it freaking crashed on us.
I don't think it was the software.
You don't think so?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's Facebook. Nope, there's Trinity.
Same time every time.
Facebook, for whatever reason, there's no like ability to recover from a connection fault, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing a live, if it glitches for like 500 milliseconds, like it kills the feed. I don't get it.
Locked in?
Wait, there's no like dial on the inside of the
No.
thing to unlock it. You need a
You
key,
need a key to lock it in, lock it inside of it. Yeah.
so you can get locked into the
I
freaking
got
building.
locked in the building.
I don't want to get locked in here with a bunch of ghosts and shit.
I got locked in at the bottom of the stairs, was banging the door like a little bitch, going, guys,
What kind of
begging
setup
for
is
somebody at
that?
the bar to come out and get me.
Somebody should be brought up on charges for that. Talk to the building owner and see if they can put in like a. Isn't that like a fire hazard? What if somebody's like whoever locks the door downstairs?
Well, don't
isn't
be a
checking to make
dumbass,
sure
lock
that the
yourself
fucking
in.
building is- There's no other way out of this place.
Nope.
That's a fire hazard, man.
Eh.
I'm surprised that.
I'm getting through that glass no matter what. It's only
Yeah,
single pane.
exactly.
I'm going to throw my body through it.
throwing that giant freaking creepy pumpkin.
Like, sir, is that giant creepy pumpkin? It's not down there anymore, right?
I don't know.
All right.
Somebody threw it through the window.
As soon as Ken's done, we're going to get into the second half of this. I think I'm going to dump this feed though, because I'm going to bring up that background again, see if it works, or should I just leave it well enough alone, being that we're running?
I would leave it running.
I'm going to leave it running.
You'll lose people if it-
Yeah. Went for an hour that first half. That was pretty good.
We did an hour.
Yeah, we did an hour. So now we're going to do a whole nother section now. This is going to be cool. No need to throw things. All right. Second half. Here we go. Talking about the potential of a Masonic party. I don't want to say the Masonic party because then people are going to think there's a Masonic party. But, Yeah, of course. He had to go potty. The dentist locked me in one night and my keys were in the car. Did you bang on the door like a little girl like I did? Begging to be let out because I had all the lights off. Everybody down at the bar was laughing at me because I was behind the glass, begging to be let out. It's pretty pathetic. So make sure we don't got no more 5-star reviews. Nope. Last one we have. Oh, we got review. We got ratings, no reviews. I had to call the bar to let me out. Yep, that's what I had to do. Hey, Mark Smith. What's up, brother? Worshipful brother. We're about to get into the Masonic party. If there was a Masonic political party, what are our thoughts on Masonic political parties? We'd like to hear what your input is. So if there was a Masonic political party called the Masonic Party, would you vote for it? Or would you be down with that in a sense? So, ready, Ken?
I'm ready.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. And we're back. We're back. In the second half of this, as I said, we're going to be talking about what if there was a Masonic political party. And we're also going to be talking about the conspiracy theorists and how they have that they believe is the Masonic NWO.
The underlying
conspiracy and how we run everything and what it would be like theoretically if there was such a thing that ran the entire world. So let's first start with the first thing. I put up a poll a while ago, and it was basically if there was a Masonic party, would you vote for it? Would you become a registered member of it? And the vote came out 80-20. 80% of the people who voted, and I think there was 55 votes, said that yes, we would be down for it. And then there was 20% that said no, they believed it should be separate. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, as Mark Smith had written, that there used to be an anti-Masonic party.
Yep.
And one of their tenets was to smash and obliterate Freemasonry. What if Freemasonry decided that we don't like the way that the Democrats and Republicans are doing things? And again, the reason why we bring up this topic is because it's election day tomorrow. Yay. But what if, a bunch of Freemasons decided, well, we don't like the way that the Republicans and the Democrats are running things. And we don't like the mudslinging. We don't like the undermining or the lying and there's no doubt, politicians lie. And we want to have our own Masonic, but we want to have our own political party that adheres to the tenets of Freemasonry.
So let's define what that party would look like.
Well,
just so that we have a framework for this conversation.
Well, let's just say that you had to be a Freemason, and it's just you have to be a Freemason,
okay, and
or adhere to the tenets of Freemasonry.
Okay,
meaning we don't talk badly about one another. Even though me and Joe break balls, but that's all in good fun. I'm talking about legitimately talk bad about one another. We're not supposed to. Does it happen? Sure, it happens. Some Masons don't like other Masons, and it's going to happen in any type of organization that has an X amount of people, a large amount of people. Masons got 6 million around the world right now,
and we make mistakes.
No one's perfect.
We certainly wouldn't do it on a network news broadcast. Or
no.
A debate or anything.
And that's one of the things I'd said is if I ever ran for a political office, I wouldn't do a zero smear campaign. I don't believe in it. I'm going to tell you what I stand for, and you know what? If they want to take shots at me, let them. I'm not going to fire back because I just don't believe in it. I think it's classless, in my opinion, to take cheap shots at people or their families or their character. I just don't believe in it. And what if we had a Masonic party that basically was along those lines, that a bunch of Masons got together, signed the petition, and I understand there is a whole process to become a registered party, third party. It's a process. You need X amount of petitions. You have to have a treasurer. Excuse me. It's not something that you just say, hey, let's form a party.
Yep. You have to abide by campaign law. There's a whole bunch of
fundraising rules. There's a bunch of paperwork you have to fill out. So,
so if we did that, you could, so you would at least have to adhere to the tenets of Freemasonry. So theoretically, by that definition, it could be completely inclusive. You could be a candidate for that party, regardless of gender and regardless of age. At least in my opinion, that's what it sounds like to me, right? The Masonic Party could put a woman in as the presidential candidate for the party.
I don't see why not.
As long as she adheres.
I don't see why not. I think as long as the tenets are adhered to, I don't see why not. A woman could most certainly be. Okay. Doesn't mean she necessarily.
Well, I mean, this is all a big thought experiment.
It's all thought experiment.
But as long as we have a framework established that says, okay, it could be totally inclusive, male, female, doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Doesn't matter on gender.
Yep.
As long as you adhere
I mean,
to
realistically, a lot of running.
Mhm.
Realistically, you have Eastern Star and Amaranth.
Mhm.
I mean, they're kind of somewhat in the Masonic family in a sense.
Yeah.
I
And
would have.
ostensibly they adhere to the same core values that we
Mhm.
do. Although I'm woefully underinformed about the Order of the Amaranth and Order of the
I mean-
Eastern Star, but I would imagine, being a Masonic affiliated body, that they would
Right.
have to believe in the same values that we do.
Absolutely. I mean, they were founded basically by Freemasons and Freemasons' wives, and and pretty much they fall right in line with the same tenets as we believe in.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't see why a woman couldn't be a candidate for the Masonic Party.
Okay, so there you go. So our increasingly hypothetical political party could be made up of any gender,
Right.
but you would have to adhere to the tenets of the order. And one of the things about being a Mason is you have to believe in a higher power.
Higher power.
So that would be a requirement.
That would be a requirement.
Okay.
I also think that the other tenet would be that you are not to come on, give me the charge of an EA here. You will be a peaceful person and your outward demeanor. You will not bring reproach upon yourself and or quote unquote, we'll just say hypothetically, the party. So you would have to adhere to the important things or the that's what I'm looking for. You'd have to basically be a even keeled person. You couldn't be on Twitter firing out blasts. You couldn't be saying bad things about other people, and you'd have to your best of your ability, be a peaceable person.
Yep.
And a respectful
good
person.
citizen, law abiding.
So I don't see me personally, I would say, yeah, if there was a Masonic party, and even if it wasn't called the Masonic Party, if even it was just a party that just had a different name, it could be the freaking Whig Party for all I care, but its main tenets were of Freemasonry. Yeah, I'd be interested in that, because one of the major problems I have with Republican and Democrat is the mudslinging and not bipartisan, because that means cross parties, but the secular
Partisan.
the partisan things is, they're not thinking, there's no compromise between the two. And that would be one of the major things of this particular party, is that we as Masons are taught to, especially as a masters, to keep harmony within your lodge.
And we advocate free thought, right?
And we advocate
free exchange of ideas. And sometimes that means somebody's going to have a different idea from you, and that's okay. Just like we did that night when we came up here and we had the firearms and lodge debate. Not really a debate, it was a discussion. But we had brothers up here that had different opinions, but we all came to we just by the nature of our relationship, we came to a common ground. We weren't fighting each other and saying, oh, well, I don't care what you say, I'm keeping my opinion the way it is. So I think but is that something that we would make a requirement of the party, that you had to allow? I would think so. Yeah. That everyone's entitled to free expression, and that you have to at least, that you have to have a civil discourse. Right. I think civil discourse is a big.
Yeah. I'm trying to get to, my phone is just not working, but I was trying to get back to the poll so I can read what the others had written in regards to the cons of it. But I know Joe, actually, when we were having this discussion the last time we were up here, Joe was opposed to the Masonic party,
because it associates the fraternity with politics.
Yes. And he was one who said that no, they need to be separate. Yeah. Masonry is a secular order, so to speak, that doesn't really involve itself in politics. But I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because I mean, the whole reason why our country was founded was because a bunch of Masons got pissed off and launched tea into the
Yeah, and
in a roundabout way.
They did. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Some of the aspects about how our government was set up was obviously inspired by Freemasonry,
right?
But I think they, in their infinite wisdom, did it in such a way that it wasn't tied directly to the fraternity. Like they took ideas that they thought were good that they learned in the fraternity, but they didn't say, "Hey, this is the United Masonic States of America." You know what I mean? They didn't.
Right.
They didn't make it a Masonically affiliated government.
They didn't come out and flat out say, "Yeah, this is a Masonic government."
And probably for the same reasons that those 20% of the voters
and actually
feel, because it should be separate in their opinion.
And actually, our country's government is set up nothing like a Masonic lodge.
No, there are some. Yeah, there are some things that.
But I mean, if you talk about the Congress,
but...
Congress and legislative, and
the fact that there's 3 branches of government.
Yeah.
The executive,
judicial. That's the one I was looking for, and the
whatever the hell the other
legislative, the Congress, basically.
Legislative,
judicial, and executive. Executive is president.
Okay.
I feel like we're need to be back on a smarter than a 5th grader right now.
Yeah, because I think I'm falling down.
No, it's 3. It's judicial.
I know there's 3. I just
legislative and executive.
Okay.
My daughter would be so proud of me right now.
Yeah, I believe you.
But those 3 bodies are not. That's not emblematic of a Masonic lodge.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
So that's what I was meaning. Is it's not set up as a Masonic lodge.
Yeah, I mean there are definitely departures from the way a Masonic lodge is set up.
Right.
We do everything based on. Well, I mean the voting process and everything is a very democratic process, but there is a difference to how that system was set up in the United States of America versus a Masonic lodge.
Well, even the elections are different too, though, because
it's not secret.
It's not secret to a point.
Yeah,
to a point.
I mean, you're not sworn to secrecy on how you voted, but theoretically, nobody else needs to know or can know unless you tell them how you voted.
Right. And the other part of it is again, we were just talking about there's no campaigning in a Masonic lodge. In the American government, you can campaign all year round, and they do, because that's all you ever hear about.
Yeah.
As soon as the president or whoever's installed, you got less than a year, and they're right back on it again.
Yeah.
It's a constant campaigning thing, and that just doesn't happen in Masonic lodge. There's no campaigning. I think let's be honest, the second half of the year, September, there's a little bit of talk about it. October, a little bit more. November is where it now becomes a hot topic. Yeah. December comes, it's gone.
Yep.
Throughout the year, it trickles a little bit. Next year, but nothing like.
Yeah, it's not like the U.S. political system in that regard.
So this was just a couple things that were in the poll.
But I mean, like states' rights. States' rights is absolutely a Masonic ideal. That their states should be, forming their own laws and responsible for their own their own futures, and not the federal government. The federal government shouldn't be setting precedent for certain things at the state level, and that's exactly how Masonic lodges are governed.
Absolutely. So. In each jurisdiction, grand jurisdiction governs itself, just like the states. I mean, the actual idea of a United States of America didn't come until after the War of 1812.
Yeah,
realistically, each state kind of governed itself right up until the War of 1812, and then after that is where you started getting a sense of unity.
Yeah, then things changed.
Then things changed after that. Thanks, England.
Certain things that the federal government could decide upon.
Right.
But yeah.
So this is some of the comments that were in the poll. And again, I've already read it earlier, but Joseph Schultz, worshipful brother Joseph Schultz, of course, said, "Sign me up. I love a lost cause."
Always shooting for the underdog. He is
Paul. I'm going to butcher his last name, and I apologize, Paul. Brother Paul Kutziel. You can't have politics nor religion be a factor. They are diverse topics in which is certain to bring conflict, and in such both topics are counter to the meet on the level and depart upon the square philosophy. I wrote back, thank you for the feedback, and you'll like the November topic.
So So it was religion and what were the two topics?
Religion and politics.
Religion and politics.
That's what he said. He said,
that they should never be discussed.
yeah, they are
In a
diverse
Masonic
topics in which
context.
is certain to bring conflict.
Yeah.
And in such both topics are counter to the meat on the liver and depart upon the square philosophy. So what he's
Yeah.
basically saying is that, again, we've kind of laid out our outline of what a quote unquote Masonic
Mhm.
party would look like.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I guess it makes sense to think about what happens if this theoretical
mhm,
party were to be created.
right,
What would that do to Masonic lodges?
right,
How would
right.
how would Masons actually treat them?
How would they treat
all-
each other? And right,
Would they all automatically vote for that Masonic candidate?
right.
If that's an expectation, then yeah, this is not going to work.
Right. And or on top of that, we've said it before, not all Masons adhere perfectly to the
Mhm.
tenets of Freemasonry.
Right.
So now when you get a Mason who may be up for office in this quote unquote Masonic party and the Masons don't actually like him because of his conduct or whatever, now what?
That's causing a whole bunch of disharmony in lodges,
Right.
which is counter to what we believe.
Right.
And
So
yeah, that's
so Brother Paul brings up a
worst case
very
scenario right there.
brings up a very valid point. And then the other half of the Bash Brothers, Worship Brother Greg Schultz. There are many parties in our country you can join. The Elephant and Donkey Party are the richest and most popular in the USA.
Mhm.
A Masonic party would only represent the interests of Masons. Otherwise, it would become political and polarizing. It could wind up dividing Masons and stop the brotherhood we share across the globe. And I said, awesome insight.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right.
Yep.
So I guess I guess you could say pros and cons to this. I mean, you could eventually take a craft and shatter it.
Yeah. Well, it would probably
sense.
never work out the way that we've defined it at the beginning of the second half. It would be interesting to consider a third party that just adheres to the tenets of Masonry without saying anything about it being affiliated with Masonry at all. Right?
Right.
Like, hey guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, regardless of what your take on certain issues is, we're always going to be moral and upright.
Right.
We're always going to allow for free discourse.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to mudsling or
Mm-hmm.
even talking, negative in any way about our opponents, but just talk about,
Right.
take the high road,
Mhm.
talk about what
Take the
we're
high
going
road.
to do, not about what everybody else is going to do. And just to set up certain standards that are derivative of Masonic values,
Right.
but don't call out Freemasonry in particular, and then make all of those candidates or anybody who's affiliated with that party abide by those rules. That would be interesting.
I am listening to you, but my water bottle had a crink in it. So when I popped it open, it spilled ice cold freezing water all over my balls. So
That's. I mean, you have ADD anyway, but like that's really going to throw your concentration off.
I was
You
saying,
have
I'm
an
distracted
excuse.
now. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, so I originally voted yes. If there was a Masonic party that had and adhered to the Masonic tenets, only because of the bullshit that I think goes on between the Republicans and Democrats. If there was a Masonic
Mhm.
party that came in and said, in a sense, and I hate to quote, but let's drain the swamp and get rid of all this bullshit that goes on in politics, I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'd be for it. I'd be absolutely for it. But after the comments came in, and I'm sitting there and I'm reading those, and Greg Schultz, who normally is a jokester, like his brother, worship brother Joe Schultz, they're mostly jokesters, but they come across with some pretty insightful shit sometimes.
Mhm.
And when he wrote that, I'm like, and then you added Brother Paul popped on, and I'm like, he's got a
Mhm.
point too.
Yep.
So I'm torn. And I also think that, and this is another thing to think about in terms of political parties. The political parties started, I think, with good intention. I think originally when they first started, nobody starts with bad intentions,
No.
right? And now I look at the political climate now, and it's a hot topic, so it's kind of why, and plus it's election day tomorrow. So,
Yeah. In the U.S. anyway.
Yeah, but I think the Democrats and Republicans started off with very noble and genuine purposes. And I think on both sides of the coin, you start to see what's the word I'm looking for? Like degrading of, in a sense, of their morals and values.
Yeah.
And I wonder,
certainly over time,
the Masonic Party gets started with all these morals and values.
Yep.
And now,
yeah, and what happens to that over time?
I mean, basically, if you take 2 cups of tea, and you put them side by side, and you pour water in it, the water doesn't change the color. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So something that goes in pure may not come out the other end holding to that pureness. And that's what I would be worried about, is it would just be another political party that gets wrapped up into Capitol Hill and the bullshit that goes on up there, and something that started off with noble intentions is no longer noble.
Yeah.
That would be my concern.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty valid concern too. Because there is a lot of power to corrupt them.
Actually, we do have a toast to do. One more.
Did you figure out who the
Nope.
Who the missing review was?
No.
Let me see if I can figure out what we're doing here.
We have a toast to do.
I'd
like you to lead it.
No, we have 798 likes right now, so I don't think that's what we're toasting.
Nope.
Who are we toasting? Right Worshipful Brother George?
Congressman Elijah Cummings.
Okay.
Passed away last week.
Oh.
He was a brother and a Sir Knight. And actually, during his funeral ceremony, the Prince Hall brothers of Maryland and Sir Knights of Maryland gave him a Masonic funeral.
I did see that.
Live on TV.
Yeah.
So I would like to toast Congressman and brother Elijah Cummings. Not for his passing, but in his memory. In his memory. And I'd also like to toast those knights, Sir Knights of the commandery down in Maryland. It might have even been the Grand Commandery or his commandery, as well as the Grand Lodge of Prince Hall for the funeral that they did on live TV.
Yeah, it was an amazing ceremony.
It was an amazing ceremony, and they did one hell of a job. So I want to toast them. Why don't you lead it?
To Brother Elijah Cummings, brother and Sir Knight Elijah Cummings.
Alas, 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 my brother.
Brethren, right hand to arms.
Arms.
Ready.
Ready.
Aim.
Aim.
Fire. Good fire. Fire all. Together, brother. Vivat, vivat, vivat.
Yeah, I seen that. It was pretty.
Yeah, they did an excellent job.
They did a fantastic job. It's always sad to lose a brother, no matter where he's from. So. All right, so let's get into the last half of this, and then we'll wrap this up. So the conspiracy theorists throw around the idea that there is a new world order. Let's talk about what would it really be like if there was a new world order controlled by Freemasons.
You'd probably know it. You'd know what's going on. It wouldn't be, well.
I will say this. Okay, the conspiracy theorists are dead wrong on this for the simple reason is this. After World War II, you had Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was the most powerful guy in the entire world, arguably at that point.
Yep.
You had Winston Churchill, another Freemason.
Yep.
Who was the second or third, arguably the most powerful guy in the entire world. Followed after Franklin Delano Roosevelt died, a Scottish Rite 33rd degree Freemason took over for him, Harry S. Truman, who now had nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Who was arguably the most powerful guy in the world.
And there were much fewer rules and policies surrounding their use. So if we wanted to take over the world,
it would be
you wouldn't even be around to have the conversation right now.
Right now, we would be running the damn show. Yep. Mark my words, we'd be running the show.
That is an excellent point.
So we controlled, we were the most powerful economy in the entire world at the time. On top of that, Europe was smashed to hell. I mean, you can say, yeah, the Russians had, 3 million freaking soldiers, but
Yep.
we had the bombs.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have lasted too damn long.
Yeah.
So potentially, I'm just saying
and
that if there was
Freemasonry exploded after World
Yes.
War II as well in America.
if
and
there was a
Europe as
potential,
well. Yeah.
you see
That
what I'm
would have
saying?
been-
though?
that would have been the
that
time
would
it
have been
would
the
have
time
happened.
for
Yeah.
us to really grab hold
Yep.
and grab this sumbitch by the neck,
Yep.
and we would have controlled it, and there would have been lights out from there.
Yeah.
And so we would be in control right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say,
That's an excellent point.
let's just use that example. Let's say that did happen. Let's say
Okay.
Freemasonry.
We're gonna do like an alternative.
We're going to do an
history thing.
alternative mystery thing, like
I love
Man in the High
alternative
Castle
history.
type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Okay. Except instead of Man in the High Castle, it's going to be Right Worshipful Brother George. in the,
Oh, that was perfect.
in the little kitty castle that got crushed in my backyard by that tree the other day.
Son of a bitch. Oh, here we go. I thought I was absolved from the shit. I'm like, all right, me and Ken are going to have a great conversation. And then, bam, here you come.
No,
Very nice filling the shoes, though. I appreciate it.
try.
Actually, I
I'm
can't even
not-
say you filmed
I'm
the shoes
nowhere
anymore.
near as good as.
Because you two lambasted the shit out of me last podcast. And thank you very much for putting your son back on the main screen of your phone, by the way. I do
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I did have to take that off because it was actually scaring my children a little bit. I showed my older son that picture, and he's like, "That's funny, but George's face is really big." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll put your picture."
I got a
back
fat
on there,
head.
buddy."
What do you want me to tell you? I got a fat head.
It's kind of the angle too,
True.
but yes, okay. Alternative
Universe right now.
Masons
we're
took
gonna,
over after World
Masons
War II.
took over after World War II. We decided, now's the time. We can take it all over. It could be ours. New World Order, run by Freemasons. Let's talk about the first thing. And I would say that, let's say that all the government's smashed down and dismantled, and the Masons were going to run it the way they wanted it to be run. First thing that would happen is you'd have a United Grand Lodge of the world.
You think so? Because our tenants say that again.
Do you have a
it's
United
all-
Grand Lodge of England?
Yeah, but of the world.
England, basically, they have thousands of jurisdictions that go underneath their name.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's potential, right? You're going to run governments. Freemasons are going to run governments,
But
right?
that's the exact counter argument that we make to when the conspiracy theorists nowadays say that we rule the world. It's like there is no one overarching grand lodge or entity that controls.
But
all of the
understand, if
subordinate
Freemasons,
jurisdictions.
maybe it's my opinion, but if Freemasons were going to be part of an NWO and take over the world, you would
then we
have
would
to
probably have to centralize.
we'd have to
some of the
centralize
control.
something
Yeah.
to control.
Okay.
So now basically you would have to set up your world government so that all the land in the entire world
Mhm.
had a model of the same. Look at the states. So you in our country, you
Mhm.
have each state has a Senate and a House of Representatives. And then you have
Yeah.
a governor who's basically your executive branch.
Yeah.
And every state is set up like that. And then you get to the government of the United States as a whole, and it's set up all the exact same way. So
Mhm.
if Freemasons were to take over, you would, in a sense, have to have a Grand Lodge, and every government would have to
Would be
have a
subordinate to that.
lodge subordinate to that.
Okay. I'm willing to concede that.
We're
point. Yeah.
spitballing here.
Yeah,
Again,
no,
this
that's-
is all hypothesis.
Yeah.
This is all.
We
So
can run under
basically,
that assumption.
You
and see what it
couldn't
would-
have a government like the Russian government and then an American government, because the two wouldn't coincide.
Yeah.
Because you have the Russians who have their government set up one way, and you have the United States who's got it set up a way, Mexico's got it set up a different way, Canada's got it set up a
Yeah.
way. You'd have all these different types of governments.
We'd have to rip it all.
You'd have to
down.
rip it all down from ground floor and start it from back. So let's say you had a
Big job.
United Grand Lodge of the world, and then you had the United Grand Lodge of England, United Grand Lodge of the United States, and all these things are subordinate to the World Grand Lodge, correct?
Yep.
That means you would have to have one guy at the top.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about, we've already kind of talked about it in the first half of this,
There really aren't checks and balances.
There's
in
no
Masonic lodges.
checks,
Yeah.
imbalances of, good evening, brothers. Good evening, brother. Jordan Jensen popped on.
Oh, you
So,
brother.
We're spitballing here on a Man in the High Castle type.
Yeah.
We're tearing
Alternative
down.
history.
We're tearing down. We're tearing down conspiracy theorists. What their hypothesis or that we're a new world order.
Yes.
So we're kind of theoretically throwing things around.
Yep. For our new listeners who just joined, what we're doing here is we're talking about an alternative history where after World War II, when the leaders of the free world at that point, who were all Freemasons, decided to get together and create a world government based on Freemasonry.
Right.
We're hypothesizing on what that might look like.
Right. So, so now you'd have one guy at the top, right?
Yep.
He would be the most worshipful Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the world, right?
Pretty cool title.
It is a pretty cool title. It is a pretty dope title, right?
Yeah.
But the only problem is, just like in your state jurisdictions, the Grand Master doesn't have to answer to nobody.
Yep.
He is the authoritarian. He does what he wants.
Yep.
There's no vote in Grand Lodge. There's once, unless you get to your semi-annuals or your annual communications, which would be a big meeting between all the world Grand Lodges, all the different territorial Grand Lodges, I guess you can call them, because there wouldn't be a United States anymore. It would be like the Grand Lodge of North America, the Grand Lodge of South America.
Yep. Like how Spencer Miller said that he's being installed in the East next month, and he's pushing for all of these things.
I just read that.
You're probably not going to get very far, brother, but God bless. Good luck.
So that's awesome. But but realistically, during that Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the World's term, there's nobody that's going to stop him from doing anything he wants to do, because there's no power of veto or override or impeachment, if you will, in modern terms. I guess there's nothing to stop him to do, because I don't think
there's no veto power. Nobody has the ability.
Nobody has the ability to oversee him. So basically, he can do whatever he wanted. That is
until the end of his term.
Very dangerous concept.
Yeah.
Now, some grand jurisdictions do 2-year terms. Now, if you want to take it all the way to the Scottish Rite, they have 8-year terms?
Oh, I have no idea.
As the sovereign Grand Commander, I think Southern is 8. I could be wrong though. The Southern,
that's a long time.
It's a long time.
That's a big job to have for 8 years, man.
I mean, you've been in lodges, I'm sure. How much damage could a master do in 1 year? To a lodge. How much damage can a master do to a lodge in 1 year? You can tank your freaking lodge.
I mean, from a hypothetical standpoint, you could do a lot of damage.
You can do it.
But of course, we're Masons, so ostensibly that doesn't happen very often.
That doesn't happen.
I mean, I've never heard of it happening. But yeah, you have the prerogatives necessary to completely destroy things in 1 year term if you really wanted to. If you were of that mind.
Not even of that mind, but some people
got to that point.
I'm not even thinking of it from a malicious point of view. I'm thinking of it. Some people are better leaders than others.
Yeah.
You I would say you're a good leader. You're very oriented. You got your shit together. I'm very headstrong, got my shit together. But you get somebody in there who kind of limps into it a little bit and is really unsure of himself. And
usually, I think the brethren, who again, I'm guessing the voting process in this hypothetical scenario here would be, everybody would have to vote, and it would be a 2/3 majority.
Or is it a progressive line?
Or a progressive line, like a dynastic system or something like that. Even if that were the case, like somebody would look at it and be like, you'd still have the ability to override it as a voting member.
But again, we're talking about
citizen.
If Masons were the NWO and controlled the world.
Oh, then yeah, it wouldn't so much matter.
It wouldn't so much matter what you thought, because it's a progressive line. Wow. So realistically, even if the next guy who was in line was a shitty leader, he's the progressive line, right?
There'd be no recourse for.
Or no.
I mean, in a Masonic
or maybe
lodge,
the guy. And understand, now you have the Masons running the world, and how many Masons are around the world? Roughly 6 million. Roughly. Give or take.
Nowadays, yeah, I think that's
like 6 million.
Accurate.
It was up to 8 at one point, but we're probably about 6 million now. Do you really think that of those 6 million, there's not 1, 2, 20, 1,000 guys who join for the wrong reasons?
Yeah. Who really shouldn't be leaders?
Who really shouldn't be leaders?
Probably.
Or who just are socially inept?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I hear what
so now if he ends up in a position of high power, and he turns into this King syndrome or Napoleon syndrome, whatever you want to call it, King Henry syndrome or whatever, and decides to, again, You could do a lot of damage in 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
but how long is this term? What if it's 8?
Well, if you're in charge of the entire world, you could destroy the entire world inside of either.
And this is
if
why
you really wanted to.
with
those powers.
and this is a perfect conversation, because this right here is destroying any idea of a new world order that Freemasons would have any part to do with.
Oh, but George, the conspiracy theorists are saying, you guys are doing it all under the covers. You're doing it in such a secret fashion that nobody knows.
Okay. Even if it's under the covers, do you know the amount of logistical shit that involves to not only run your underground campaign of control, but also have the same overhead of trying to keep it quote unquote secret?
Yeah, fair point.
And I'm sorry, the kid in his basement who's Google Earth and Google Maps thing, the Denver airport, is probably not going to be privy to the fact that there's a new world order, nor is going to know about it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Jordan Jensen, in this new world order, would the annual shift of power still proceed, or would it be a check and balance to all the powerful position? What systems of order and control would be used in the Masonic manner to maintain the order of the temple, so to speak?
Well, in our little fake universe that we created here,
Right.
everything is set up the way a Masonic lodge
Right.
is. So we're kind of noodling around with the concept of having one world government based on a Masonic lodge.
And the reason why I chose
easier
that
for
as a Masonic lodge, it's easier for us to understand. And again, even if there was some sort of an NWO, New World Order, if there really was something, do I believe that there's people in power that secretly control certain aspects of government and or black, money deals and
Yeah,
bribery?
I mean,
sure.
absolutely.
There's no doubt in my mind that there's corruption at some sort of level in some sort of government, maybe even including our own. I'm not debating that. I'm talking about if the Masons were actually part of it.
Yep.
That's the point that I'm trying to get at. Number one, if there was any type of NWO, you wouldn't be able to control it from the shadows.
Yeah.
Wouldn't happen.
No.
It would be way too difficult of a logistical nightmare of knowing who you have in your pocket, who's going to turn on you,
Yeah.
who's going to expose you, who's not going to expose you. And Epstein didn't kill himself, but you understand what I'm getting? It would be a very, very difficult for the Masonic.
Yeah. I mean, like you said earlier, when we had the opportunity to do that, we didn't.
Right. We had the opportunity after World War II.
See, things were a lot easier.
It was a hell of a lot easier than it is
back
to
then.
now. There was no internet.
Yeah.
There was no telephones. There was no, there was minimal communication.
Mhm.
You didn't have as many, flight, forget it. There was the airplanes.
Yeah.
You couldn't go from, you had to stop 3 times just to get from New York to Los Angeles, potentially, right? In airplanes back then.
Yeah.
So news didn't get around.
The old DC-10s, DC-3s.
Right. News and people didn't get around, and information didn't travel as fast as it does today. So understand, today it would be extremely difficult for that to happen,
Yeah.
nor would it ever happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's so statistically improbable that it would ever be possible to pull something like that off, that if you've ever heard of the term Occam's razor,
I don't think
you would
so.
know that there's a much more likely explanation out there, which is probably the correct one, which is exactly as it's being presented to you.
Right.
Each country has its own government.
Right. Now,
Its
again,
own sovereign entity.
and that means
There ain't
that you would
nothing
have to
crazy about
learn. You would have to learn if you were to do it in a shadow type way, where you're going to NWO in a shadow type. You'd have to learn each government of the
Yeah.
world.
And you'd have to have a lot of money,
you'd have
and
to
a
have
lot of power, and a lot of
right.
influence. And like Rocco just said, we can't decide on chicken or beef. Good luck with an NWO. Good point.
I'm sorry, my $125 dues a year don't cover any type of black ops shit going on.
Clandestine assassinations and shit. Yeah. Oh God. I wish $100 a year would get me that.
But so
Did I just say
basically,
that?
what we were saying though is,
No.
if it was to be set up such as the Masons were doing this, you'd have to tear down every single world government and establish a whole new group.
Yeah, or I guess the counterpoint to that would be, or do it in a very surreptitious clandestine fashion, but we already kind of threw that out as a
Right.
possibility. Like that's just logistically impossible. So if you were going to do it on the above board type way, you would have to throw out everything that's already there.
Spencer Miller, never attribute to malice that which can easily be explained by stupidity. You're smarter than I. What does he
Where
mean?
is
Break that down in
Where
jarhead
is
terms.
that one? So basically, don't.
You're too smart for me, Spencer. I'm dumb as shit. You got to jarhead this shit down for me.
I'm trying to jarhead it down. It's a really difficult
I eat
one.
crayons.
Okay, so basically, don't say that it's don't attribute to malice that which is. So he's saying don't attribute to malice that which is. I can't see it on my screen, so I'm trying to
Never
move it around.
attribute to malice that which can easily be explained by stupidity.
Right. So don't give stupid people too much credit. Right. Don't accept that it must be somebody with malign intentions trying to accomplish something when it's just some stupid person messing something up. Don't give them too much credit.
I will just say, again, I've been a Mason for, what am I going on, 11 or 12 years, something like that. And I've seen grandmasters come and go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of them good, some of them not so good. And the ones that weren't so good, could they, how do I put this very Masonically?
I mean, I think you've already not put it very masonically.
I'm just making a point of, I guess, what happened here in Connecticut in a particular year flipped the entire state of Masons upside down.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Where
about.
there was a
It changed
lot
things.
of infighting, all because of one man, one guy.
Mhm.
Okay. And I think about, if you're going to contribute this to a new world order, okay, we have this Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that he did something similar and turned all of the Masons below him against him because of something he was doing. Okay. I'm thinking of this. If there's a grand new world order, a Grand Lodge of the world, there's a lot of things that fall underneath that. Police forces, governments, military, any type of infrastructure. Let's say it gets further in the future, internet, transportation, like economy. If you had the government if you had the government basically implode on itself, like in the state of Connecticut, when we had a craft that was extremely divided about certain things, it's not so much the craft that would hurt in this particular, universal or alternate universe thing. It would be everything else that they controlled, such as the, military and everything. And it would cause literally world chaos.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm sorry, but this whole Masonic NWO Freemasons are taking over the world would be an extremely bad idea.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a Freemason.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with them on this one.
It would be a bad move. One thing that's very good about the U.S. government, and the Founding Fathers had it right. They set up a perfect checks and balance system where one power didn't have too much control over the other.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I wish that Washington would have been able to follow through with is when he put his legislation bill to abolish political parties, and they got gunned down. But that he said was one of his biggest blunders, is the abolishment of political parties.
I don't know what would be. I'd have to go back and look and see what was suggested in its place.
Nothing.
No, just
he wanted everyone to be run independently,
their own merits, and everybody runs independently. That'd be interesting.
And it got shot down because Jefferson and Madison were already freaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that the continuance so far? Let's hear. I'm sorry, Jordan Jensen. Do you think that the continuance so far of the United States compared to other countries, which have found their origins in revolution from tyranny, is connected to the influence of those Masonic masters in our history and those principles to which our country's constitution and those Masonic ideas. He's a smart one too.
That's a lot of words,
It's a
Jordan.
lot of words, but you know what?
Let's
It's very
see if we can
intelligent.
break this down.
He's very intelligent. Again, you got to jarhead this shit down for me. I'm a Marine. I know how to lick windows and eat crayons and shoot things. That's all I'm about good for.
So I think he's calling back to the fact that there were a few major revolutions that resulted in certain countries' governments that may or may not have Masons involved.
Sure.
I mean, the American Revolution, like, yeah, there were a lot of Masons involved. But you know what?
French
there
Revolution.
were a lot of Masons
French
in general
Revolution.
around.
Garibaldi was doing
The
his
French
thing.
Revolution. I mean, the Masons didn't conspire to cause the French Revolution. I don't buy into that whole theory. But were they around, and did they maybe have a hand in the resultant government after those things went down? Yeah, absolutely.
I think even before, in my personal opinion, because you had Freemasons, free thinkers, separation of church and state.
Yep.
Monarchies throughout history were ordained by
what, divine providence? Like
there you go, Catholic Church, divine providence. It's their divine right to rule.
God picked them.
God picked them. And you know, Freemasonry, they were independent thinkers. They didn't believe in that shit. You know, everybody's got their own mind. Everybody's intelligent. You know, not everybody's intelligent. But you know what I mean? Like, there are people outside of the monarchy that can rule and govern much better than kings. I mean, King George he sucked. So did King Henry.
I mean, even separation of church and state.
King Louis. I mean,
in general, I believe was a Masonic idea. Even though, I mean, as a Mason, you can't be an atheist. You have to believe in a supreme being. We don't say who that is.
Right.
You can be any religion. That's fine. So separating religion from any of your discussions on governance is something that Masons believe in as well. We don't talk about religion.
Well, even that, I mean, you have to understand, like, the climate of not so much here in America, but let's go to the French Revolution. Okay. You had King Louis and Marie Antoinette, right? And they're in their Versailles, is that where their castle was? Versailles, and it was gorgeous and elegant. She's got jewels and her hair all done, and the white powder on her face. And then you go to Paris, and it was a freaking slum where people were starving, and it was you. And but I'm the king and I'm the queen because it's our God-given right. At some point, the people are going to say, "F this," like.
And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Freemasonry. They're just looking at him and they're like, it's time for you to go.
So, I mean, if you want to take
some of that wealth,
let's reel it all around to the NWO and Freemasonry. What do you think would happen if there was a one world government of Freemasons and a Grand Lodge of the world where we control everything? What do you think the partisans are going to do to us?
I think we get overthrown.
I'm pretty sure we would. And I don't want to be on the business end of that cannon.
That's a whole lot of pitchforks and flaming torches that I don't want to have to deal with.
I am perfectly happy up here sitting in my podcast chair.
This is much nicer. Nobody's trying to kill us.
But hey, I think we've spitballed that pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, and if you guys have something else you want to add, I mean, by all means, throw us some comments and stuff, and let's talk about some hypothetical scenarios here, because honestly, this is freaking
fun, right? I told you it was gonna be fun.
And it helps to plead our case. That
it does plead our case. I'll tell you what.
Of everything right now.
As a Freemason, I would never want this to happen.
Yeah.
I would never ever want that. If I had if we went back to the 1990s where that show Sliders was, and I had that. Remember Sliders? Come on now.
Yeah, I remember Sliders.
Sliders. That was actually a cool show. Remember when you had the clicker?
Yeah.
You just get sucked through the wormhole. Like, I would never want to go to that alternate universe
where Freemasons run the world.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be even as a Mason. I'd be like, this is not going to be a fun place.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, you also have to. Spencer Miller, a lot of assassinations. Yeah, you're damn right. I mean, take the world at this particular time. If, let's say, Freemasonry took over and controlled the world and everything, in World War II, we just got finished with Hitler and Stalin and the purges and with Stalin, excuse me.
Yeah.
And
did you say the Persians?
The purges. The
Oh,
purges.
okay.
Remember,
The
he did all the
purges.
Stalin's
I thought you said
purges.
the Persians. I was like, Jesus Christ.
No.
We're like jumping all over history right now.
No. Read
Okay.
about
Yes.
Stalin's
Yeah,
purges.
no, I know.
They
Stalin
were
he was a
brutal
terrible
son of
human
a
being.
bitch.
I know.
Mussolini.
Yep.
Then you had what was going over in Japan and what they were doing, and they were killing people indiscriminately.
Yep.
Do you really think that the world would be ready for a new world order run by Freemasons? It would
No.
just be another tyrannical, and realistically, Freemasonry is a setup like a authoritarianism or a tyranny. The master has the power.
Yeah.
In his lodge.
And it works for our society.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. I do not
This
think
does.
it would work as a
No.
governing body for, the general.
Understand, though, we only govern
population.
ourselves, though.
Yeah.
We're not governing outside people. It's
No.
not like Morningstar Lodge here in Seymour runs the town of Seymour, where we have just everyday people walking the streets, and we have to kind of govern them.
Yeah.
We just govern ourselves.
Yeah.
And I like it
that's-
that way.
Sometimes that's hard enough,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yes, it is.
But we also, we all agree to a certain,
Mhm.
we all went through a shared experience, the initiatic experience.
Mhm.
We all ascribed, we all believe and uphold the same values.
Right.
It makes that kind of authoritarian, like pyramid hierarchy works fine for us.
Right.
Because we all believe in the same things.
Right. We're basically, you, me, Joe, every Mason has the same goal.
Yep.
This is what we're after. So this isn't like Jordan Jensen, those Persians. I said purges.
Goddamn Visigoths screwing everything up for everyone. But if you took that same construct and you dropped it on the town of Seymour,
Then they wouldn't have
just on the town of Seymour,
Yeah, they wouldn't have it.
it would be a complete shit
Right,
show.
because you're trying to shove something down somebody else's throat that might not necessarily want it.
Mhm.
You know, it would be a real. And now you put that on a worldwide scale, forget it.
Yeah, it would
Jordan
be-
Jensen, do you think the longevity of Freemasonry is directly connected to the amount of discretion in the craft or in the public attraction of it? Me personally, and Ken can answer separately, I think the longevity of Freemasonry is connected to how we're out in public. I think we had a real bad run when we were discriminate and hidden.
Mhm.
You had the Morgan affair that went down, which we've already proven it was Lucinda's fault. You can go back in the
Sweet Lucinda Pendleton. Yeah,
but
totally
we had a bad
our
run,
fault.
and then you got where the Nazis exposed all of the memento mori and the chambers of reflections, and the Nazis said, "Oh, they're bad, they're bad, they're bad."
Yeah, and then went and
then-
got SS rings with the death's head skull on
Yeah.
it and everything.
Right, and then you've had Mussolini was another one, and then you got again, we're still getting up to modern day. I mean, now you got YouTube shows that show how bad we are and all the bad shit that we do, and we really don't. So we have a lot of negative, and it's like, I guess it's the situation of where, and this is why part of the reason why we started the whole podcast is that for years prior to even starting this podcast, and me as a Mason, I go on YouTube because I want to learn. I'm here to learn. I want to learn about the craft.
Mhm.
I don't know everything there is to know. I never claim there is. I know everything there's to know, but I want to go on YouTube and I want to type in Freemasonry. Let's watch this show, and they're devils, and they
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah, you
Got to do it.
there you go.
The Freemasons, they love Satan. Like, but you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, what
We
the
really
fuck?
don't use the effects.
I don't know. We don't use the effects enough, but it's like, I just want to see something on Freemason. I don't want to see the bullshit that's out there. And I mean, for
Yeah, but
years,
when that stuff comes up on search results as being more relevant
All
than
the
the
fucking
actual
time.
genuine article, that freaking sucks.
all the time. It's like, I want to learn what this symbol means. I want to learn what that symbol means.
Yep.
And then I get Illuminati. It's,
Yeah.
oh, come on, Jesus.
Yeah.
So, you know what, though?
Not you people again.
For years prior to me doing this podcast, I'm sitting there and I'm watching Freemasonry just getting punched in the mouth
Yeah.
constantly. And finally I decided, I'm like,
Right.
you know what? Fuck it. I'm taking my shots back. And I'm going to show what we're really like. We're average dudes who drink shitty whiskey and and hang out.
Yep.
So in my personal opinion, I think Freemasonry needs to keep discretion within the lodge.
Mhm.
But you know what? show that we're real people.
Yep.
That I have kids and you have kids and
Yep.
we have families and I work for a living and my job sucks. And you know what I mean? Like
We're
we're just
human
normal
beings.
human beings.
Yep.
And I think that's what's important. I think that
I don't
is
even
where-
remember what his question was.
His
now
question
after
was,
all
do you
that.
think that the longevity of Freemasonry is directly connected to the amount of discretion in the craft or the
Right.
public attraction to it?
No, I mean,
That was my
I think the longevity of the fraternity really just centers on the fact that, you know, that the founding fathers of Freemasonry got it right. Right? They created a society that was based at the time on the stonemasons guilds, and a lot of that had to do with, you know, their shared experiences and their moral ideals and their need for secrecy at the time, because the entire economics behind how they did their jobs was contingent on them keeping certain secrets from the general public.
Did you want more?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, I guess. I don't know. So I think it just so happens that there was a perfect storm there, and Freemasonry, having sprung out of that, got it right. You know, the founding fathers, the men who created speculative masonry based on those ideals, did it in such a way that it has that staying power. I don't think it has anything to do with the secrecy behind certain aspects of our craft.
Right. I also
it intrigues certain people, but that's not the only reason why people join Freemasonry, right?
Right. I also firmly believe, and maybe this will add back to your question as well, Brother Jordan. When Freemasonry first got started, when the brothers sat down at that pub in England and discussed about, was it England? Right?
Yeah.
Would I go cheap on you?
Green Dragon? Green Dragon?
No, Goose and
Gridiron. I'm sorry.
But they sat down and they talked about Freemasonry, and it kind of popped up in Europe as well. And there was the real Illuminati, the Illuminatus Perfectus, the real one, Adam Weishaupt. They sat down and they were talking. Listen, we want to be separated from church and state, and they're free thinkers. They didn't want to just the dogmatic shit that the church was trying to shove stuff down their throat, that the world was flat and this, that, and the other thing. Like they wanted to be free thinkers.
Yep.
They wanted the ability to move and discuss and talk about esoteric and quote unquote, heretical.
Yeah, things that
the church
powers that be said
no.
You can't talk about
the church.
Yeah.
I think personally, in my opinion, what we're doing right here on this podcast, you, me, Joe, Rocco, whoever comes up here and plays with us, they would be very proud to see what we're doing. Because I bet you back in their day, if they had this technology to do what we're doing, it's exactly what they would have been doing.
Yep.
So I feel like
I think it's the right way to go about things, and I think in that way they got it right, and that's why Freemasonry that's why it has a staying power.
And honestly, everything ebbs and flows. Freemasonry had its ups and it's had its crashes, and then after World War II, it had its ups, and we're starting to see a slow.
Yeah, there's a decline now, but it's not a decline for the same reason. Right? There aren't people hunting us down and killing us because we're Freemasons.
Right. Well, even after World War II, there wasn't. The baby boomers come back. They just wanted a sense of fraternity.
No, I'm saying prior to that, there was.
Prior to that,
because they were actually being thrown into camps and stuff, and then it bounced back after.
And after World War II, they had there was a huge flux of Freemasons. Even World War I, there was a huge flux of people who wanted to be Freemasons. Why? And I think personally, that's why we started the MOVE campaign.
Because they are attractive ideals.
They are attractive ideals, and that feeling of brotherhood.
Yep.
They just got finished fighting a war where they were with their brothers and they were all tight and everything, and now they came back home, and then it's just back to reality or back to basic civilian life. So they needed that brotherhood and that companionship. So they sought out Freemasonry. And I mean,
back to a bunch of self-absorbed people who are all in it for themselves versus what they saw when they were in the military, which is we all have a common purpose and we're all aiming for the same target.
Right. And after World War II kind of died out, and you started to see a decline again. But now, in my personal opinion, we're still on a quote unquote decline in Freemasonry. But I personally feel that now that Freemasonry is more in the limelight, we're doing podcasts. There's multiple podcasts where we're getting out of, because for a while there, Freemasonry, in my opinion, was in a dark age.
Yeah.
Right. Now we're starting to come out of this dark age, and we're starting to get with modern times, doing podcasts, and two idiots up here drinking proper 12. And
we're not giving a whole lot away, but we're bringing enough light to what Freemasonry is. We hope. to attract men like us who have the same kind of ideals to the craft. And you know what? I mean, I hate to keep going back to this, but I think it's relevant. The marketing campaign that the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction came out with, I think a year and a half ago, the Not Just a Man, a Mason thing, they did a bunch of market research and they found that, wouldn't you know it, men that are in our target demographic do believe in the same things or want to experience the same things that Freemasonry provides. It's just all that's missing is getting that message out to them.
Wow.
That takes money and time and effort, obviously, and B, obviously we have to do it in such a way that we're not giving away the secrets of the fraternity or recruiting or doing any of those things that are verboten. But we do have, those people do exist out there that are not currently Masons that would make good ones.
I want to just say, Brother Jordan Jensen, I appreciate the comments, because let me tell you, you got some intelligent shit coming in. Far too intelligent for me.
This is
but
way
I'm
more intelligent than our normal shows.
Yeah,
are.
and I like it though.
It's
You know what though?
raising the bar.
We definitely do a lot of freaking horsing around up here though.
Yeah,
so you know what? This whole mind altering, not mind altering, but making us think here.
Thought experiments. In general, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Like
We'll have to do more. I'll come up with some more shit.
My brain's a little shot right now.
But he says, Jordan Jensen. So coming to the adjustment of continuance, Masons in our ancient past stood at the peak of technology and its use to succeed in the building of such great edifices. How do you think common systems of technology, like this group of astounding gentlemen,
these
talking about us,
we're neither astounding nor gentlemen, but if you're talking about us, okay.
Like this group of astounding gentlemen, could be used in lodge? I don't mean for lodges to be on Facebook, but I mean using and implementing the plethora of tools, communications, and exchange. I think it's in my personal opinion, I think it needs to be a little bit of both, personally. I think I am not a fan of, I was brought up a while ago about people who Skype in to lodge. Or
to lodge. Oh yeah, I remember.
Or FaceTime and everything. I am not.
We messed around with that idea. I think it was.
I am adamantly opposed to that.
Was it Most Worshipful Brother Mel that was like, at some point in my lifetime, people will be coming into lodge?
Yes, but I think we've talked about it before, where they were talking about Skyping in or FaceTiming in, or can I vote? No, you cannot be part of it because you're not. We don't know where you are, and if you're tiled.
Yep.
You could have 50 million people behind you watching your conversation. So no, I am not an advocate for any type of electronics in lodge. And personally, I've already said it before. When I come to lodge, I come to escape the outside world. So I don't want my damn phone turned on. I don't want any of that shit turned on. I want to be there with my brothers in person. However, with the exception of that, I absolutely think that in order to promote our craft and show what we're really all about, not talking about our ritual, not talking about what we do behind closed doors, talking about just what we do, who we are, I think that absolutely needs to be out in the forefront.
Yeah. Yep. Because that's where modern folks are. That's where they're going to become informed on these things. If we're not out on the web and we're not on social media and we're not creating videos and stuff on YouTube, then we're not creating podcasts.
Right.
We're not fixing the problem.
Spencer Miller writes, this is the first year since I think they said in 1957 that Michigan finished the year with more Masons than when he started with. Awesome. Clearly the Grand Lodge of Michigan is doing something right.
Yeah, so they netted members.
They netted members. That's awesome.
Doesn't
that's
happen
a good
too
thing.
Often.
It doesn't, but I would.
One lodge, and I don't know if I can really talk to that. I don't know if I should. I'll say we had a very small number of lodges in the state of Connecticut that actually netted members.
Now, to that other point, though, just to piggyback what you're just saying there, we also had lodges who did their, who got their records up to snuff. Us being one of them, where we carried members for freaking 5, 6, 7 years, and then I tossed them.
And that does affect that number.
That absolutely.
Obviously, you're not going to net members if you're getting rid of,
correct.
That haven't paid.
So even if you had 5 Masons come in the door, if 6 you throw out, you're showing a -1.
Yeah. So I don't want to say that
which
that's
is BS.
Indicative of what's, of anything in particular. It's just an interesting anecdote that I
Jordan Jensen. I'm telling you, I could do this all night with this guy here. This is awesome, brother. Then in throwback,
I can't see his posts anymore because my battery died. So
that's
now
all right.
I'm like
Then
trying to keep
Then
it
in
going.
throwback, what do you think the public transition to acceptance of Freemasonry versus the obsession with myth look like in our society? Ooh, good one. Then in throwback, what do you think the public transition to acceptance of Freemasonry? I think people, and we'll even bring this back to politics, and we'll even bring this back, even in Freemasonry. There is a lot of bullshit out on the internet. And I say bullshit, I mean ankle deep, smelling bad bullshit. And I think people are finally starting to realize that there is, and I hate to use this quote, but it's true. There's fake news out there. There's a lot of fake shit out there.
Yep.
And I think people are at a point now, and I have to actually give politics credit for this, because people are actually starting to do homework for themselves, because they're realizing themselves that there's a lot of fake narrative out there about things.
That information doesn't just like come through the pipe, slap you in the face, and is as it
one of the
seems.
best commercials I seen, I swear to God, was the one with the chick who was going out with the guy, and she says, "Oh, he's French. Bonjour."
I don't see.
Oh, it was a
because I don't
commercial.
have
I can't remember
cable
what it
anymore.
was.
I haven't had cable for like 5 years.
It was a commercial a long time ago. It was about something she found a date on the internet.
Oh.
And it was a real scrubby guy. And he's like, "You believe everything you read on the internet?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's French." And he shows up, and it's just your average Joe, facial hair all messed up. And he's like, "He's French." And he goes, "Bonjour." Like, so obviously it was BS.
Right.
So I think that people are starting to understand that there's a fake narrative about certain things out there, be it be politics, be it be people, Freemasonry. There's a lot of fake stuff out there. And we, as a podcast, have tried to even expose some of that fake stuff. Illuminati, Illuminati, Illuminati.
Yeah.
I gotta start playing with this more often. Illuminati, 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 Illuminati.
That's freaking great.
But
that makes me chuckle.
But that's my personal opinion. I think Freemasonry won't need to do anything to be accepted. I think once we keep showing our horse shit and
yeah, I mean, showing that we're real people. I think you're right in that. I think people are becoming more informed consumers of what they read through technology. I mean, you kind of have to be, because it's either that or people just shut down altogether.
Right.
Or they believe everything they read going forward in perpetuity, which, God, I hope that doesn't happen, because this is going to be one hell of a frigging society by the time I reach retirement age. So I hope that doesn't happen. I choose to think that people are going to become more informed, informational consumers over time, and that will benefit Freemasonry.
I think, it's already been proven that, the Russians are putting out fake news and fake narratives for people.
Well,
social media,
everybody's putting out fake news, right?
Social media is the devil. Really bad.
It's too easy. We're in a climate now where anybody can contribute to content, right? Content is user generated. It's not just like 3 central news agencies that are producing the shit. Anybody can do it. So
Jordan Jensen says, "I got to take off, but thank you so much for answering my questions, and as well as to everybody who contributed here. I'll be listening. Cheers, brethren." Hey, Jordan.
Right on, brother.
Cheers to you. Thank you. We appreciate the intelligent conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to shut this down too, because I'm tired.
It is a little late. We've been going for like 2 hours.
Yeah, we have. This is a good one though. But you know what though? We got some content. I'm gonna dribble it out. I'm gonna dribble it out nice and slow.
You should.
I'll set a little out Tuesday, maybe a little out Thursday. I'll
have
just
a little vacation.
Drips and drabs. You know what I'll do? How much of a penis would I be though if I was like recorded it and then like in the middle of the then play the outro music? The God damn him!
That's messed up. You can't do that to people, man.
I won't. But it would be funny as hell though to do that though.
It's even worse than the producers of fake news. Just stripping your content down.
The more community things we do, the more acceptance we'll get, and the less people will fall for the conspiracy BS.
Yeah,
I think it's last point, and then we're going to shut this down. But I think personally, I love wearing my square and compasses and wearing my hoodies and wearing my pins and wearing my shirts and all that stuff, because you know what? When people see that on my shirt, but they also see me laughing and joking and having a good time and talking to everybody and being friendly, they realize, well, you know what? Maybe they ain't exactly what the internet says.
And it all comes down to, are you comfortable being an ambassador of the craft?
Uh-huh.
And if you are, A, you have to be proud of what you are, and B, if you're comfortable representing the interests of the craft in public, then wear your square and compasses and show people that we're normal people.
Spencer Miller says that'd be a real Dave move, Dave.
Who's Dave? Dave's not here, man.
I don't know. I think that might be from Meet the Millers.
I don't know. I've never seen that movie.
I can't remember what that's from, but I have heard that phrase before.
Like a pop culture.
It's from a movie, though.
Yeah.
It's like basically it'd be a real dick move.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I really should watch more movies.
Yeah, you should, especially Euro Trip. God damn it! I know you still haven't watched that.
I haven't.
So, all right, everyone, we're gonna shut this down. We've been going for a very long time, so I'm gonna chop this up and do a couple episodes.
Cool.
I want to thank you for hanging with me for the entire time.
My pleasure, my brother.
Diving down into this this mysterious altered universe.
Yeah. I like diving into mysterious altered universes, man. It's kind of like what I do. I read a lot of sci-fi where that's
I think
the underlying theme.
it's a hiring commercial service. It's a hiring service commercial.
Oh, that Bonjour thing?
No. That's what he's saying. That's be a real Dave move, Dave.
Oh,
not from our area. Then
like
we wouldn't
from like an
understand it.
Indeed ad or something like that. Or...
I guess so. It must not be from our area or something like that. But now
send us a link, and then
now I have to
what
make a
you're
meme.
talking about.
So before we leave, we have to do our faces like this, like shocked faces, because I'm gonna take like one of those like wormhole swirls, and I'm gonna make a meme.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I totally want to fall into an alternate reality.
That's a pretty cool toss around, though.
Where George Mudry is the Grand Master of the world.
God, I would not want to be. You know, honest to God, who the fuck would want to be that guy?
Not me, man.
Always looking over your shoulder, especially if it was a world government where people think that you're like last little bit of this whole NWO thing. Who the hell would want to be the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the world? The target on your back would be as big as that American flag over there. Like, no, I'm good. Like, I wouldn't want to be responsible for everyone in the world.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be responsible for everybody in my household.
Yeah. There are very few people, I think, in general, that want to be responsible, that have to have that level of power, and most of them have been deposed because they were fucking crazy.
And I honestly think that there is
let's not go there.
Benjamin Franklin said it absolutely. I've said it before. He said it. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yep.
And if there ever was a stature in life that you were the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the world,
yeah, you'd have to be a pretty
you
pure
would have
individual.
you'd have to be a saint. You'd have to be an absolute pure individual. I mean, look at all the popes in the Catholic Church. Technically, if there was ever any type of world government, there you freaking go. The popes of the Middle Ages basically ran the show. And if you went against the Pope, he would excommunicate your country, and your excommunicated countrymen would throw you out.
Yeah,
like,
good point. I mean, that's fairly analogous.
That's your closest one world government that's
Christian
ever going to
world,
be
yeah.
is the freaking Catholic Church of the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
So, perfect example. All right, I'm time for bed.
Yep, we've got nothing left here.
Thank you again for sticking around for so long. This was fantastic. We need to do this more often. We'll do some alternate universe stuff. So
yeah, that would be cool. I mean, I'm sure we can dream up some other alternative
I'll come up with some
universes. This would be fun. And thank you all for your contributions, and thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. Especially I want to give one more shout out to Jordan Jensen. That was thank you very much. That was awesome. The intelligent stuff. Sorry, I'm a dumbass. Even Spencer Miller. I'm a jarhead. So if you dumb things down for me, I'll do my best.
I spend my life explaining complex technical concepts to MBAs. So the least I can do is explain his intelligent comments to
I appreciate
it.
So, all right.
Similar to what I do.
Wrap it up for the Freemasons podcast. I'm your host, Right Worshipful Brother George. Marjorie signing off.
Worshipful Brother Ken signing off.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Shutting down the live feed. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Get some sleep.
Yep.